I remember as I was in the cockpit with this pilot, she ends up looking at me as she was literally flying the plane and says to me, Bubba, I'm not gonna lie, you're actually like really cute. Do you have like a girlfriend? And well, one thing led to another. Let's just say me and her, we ended up doing it on a plane. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to a super embarrassing but crazy story. Now, this story all takes place back when I was in high school, and this was actually the year I turned 18. I graduated, I finished school, and basically I was ready to live my life to the fullest. And one of the ways that I thought I could do that was by traveling. For some reason throughout high school, one thing I always wanted to make sure of was that I got to travel around to different places. I never wanted to be a person that only stayed in one place for his entire life and never got to explore the world. So I thought living life to the fullest and traveling would be the best idea. But me, I never actually got used to traveling alone. So what I ended up doing was I ended up basically planning a trip right after I graduated to a place called Toronto. Now, if you guys don't know, I'm in Vancouver, Canada. So I'm all the way on the West Coast, and Toronto is, well, the total opposite side of where I'm at. And I thought it'd be a great idea. I ended up basically talking to my parents about it, and my parents ended up telling me, Bubba, are you sure you want to go to Toronto? It's very far, and it's a big city. You might get lost. I'll be fine. Nothing's gonna happen. Okay, Bubba, but make sure you be careful. Women out there are very different than here. Mom, what are you even saying? I'm just gonna go there for a trip because, well, I just graduated. I want to explore the world. At that moment, my parents really couldn't say no because, well, I was 18. I was basically an adult. And well, one thing led to another. They ended up helping me book my plane tickets, and I was excited. It was my first time actually using my credit card to buy a plane ticket, and honestly, I did not know how to do it, but it seemed pretty straightforward. And I remember once I got my tickets, I ended up flexing all over the internet that I was traveling on my IG, on my Snapchat, and a lot of people were messaging me saying, Bubba, why are you going to Toronto? What's in Toronto for you, bro? Bubba, wait, you're going to Toronto? What's the point? And it even got to the point where one girl that I actually knew back in high school messaged me and said, oh, wow, like you're traveling? You're so lucky. And even though the plane tickets were pretty expensive, I knew that I wanted to make this trip worth it. And basically do what I always wanted to do and live my life to the fullest. But let's just say things got a little crazy because I remember the night before my flight, I ended up packing my bags and getting everything settled. And right as I finished packing, I remember I ended up going through my wallet to make sure I had all my IDs and everything, and I saw that my lucky rubber, which I'm gonna call it a rubber on this channel, but you guys probably know what it is, was in my wallet. Now, I was debating on taking it out because, like I said earlier, I wasn't planning on, like, you know, flying to see any girls or nothing. I just wanted to travel and explore the city. But then I thought, you know what if there was the chance I actually ended up meeting someone? So I put the rubber back in my wallet and I closed it with all my IDs in it. And well, one thing led to another. I remember I ended up going to bed and woke up at 6 a.m. just to make sure I caught my flight on time. Now, when it came to catching flights, I never knew if I was supposed to be 2 hours early or an hour early. So what I ended up doing was that I ended up going to the airport 4 hours early before my flight. And honestly, it was one of the biggest mistakes ever because once I got to the airport, my parents ended up hugging me goodbye, and I ended up going through security, you know, showing my passport and everything. And once I actually got to my terminal, I just sat there alone. Not even the screen popped up that my flight was even gonna happen. I was so just bored, and I ended up sitting there just listening to music, and then that's when I saw her. I remember I ended up seeing a girl basically walking up to the terminal, and she had like a luggage and everything, and she was wearing something super formal. And right as I looked at the badge in the corner of her shirt, I realized that she was wearing a badge that only pilots would wear. So in my mind, I was thinking, oh, there's no way this girl's a pilot. Like, she looks way too young. She looks like she's my age. And me, I ended up just sitting there staring at her, and she just looked at me, and she ended up walking up to me saying, excuse me, are you going on this flight? The flight to Toronto? Yeah, that one. Yeah, that's my flight. I'm going on that plane. Yeah. I ended up getting super nervous for some reason, and she looked at me and kind of noticed I was nervous and said to me, is this your first time flying? Kinda, yeah. I mean, by myself, yeah. Oh, so it's your first time traveling by yourself? Yeah, I'm trying something new, and I kind of just want to live my life to the fullest, so here I am, going to Toronto. Have you ever been? No, this would be the first time. Okay, well, don't be afraid. I'm actually the one flying the plane, and honestly, like, I could show you the ropes. It's really easy. I remember from there, she ended up sitting beside me, and we ended up catching up on life. She ended up telling me how she got her pilot's license and how she graduated early just to become a pilot. I ended up asking her how much she traveled, and she said she traveled a lot, and she always loves meeting new people, which is something that I wanted to do. So as we were connecting on that, I remember a couple hours went by, and me and her, we ended up talking for like more than 3 hours. But then obviously another pilot ended up coming in, and he was just some old guy that, I'm not gonna lie, he looks like he would pass out flying the plane. But I remember this girl ended up getting up and leaving, and she ended up basically going onto the plane to make sure everything was prepared for flight. And as I was looking around, I noticed that there was a lot of other people also getting ready to hop on this plane. So I remember an hour finally goes by, and I basically get my backpack and everything, and I ended up going on boarding onto the plane. And as I was boarding on the plane, I ended up seeing her actually literally right beside the entrance to the control center where you actually fly the plane. And she basically waved at me saying, "Hey Bubba, where are you sitting? Let me see your ticket." I ended up showing her my ticket, and she said to me right after, "Okay, I'll know where to find you. I'll talk to you after, okay?" And right as she said that to me, I remember the flight attendants were just looking at me confused on who I was, and ended up actually guiding me to my seat. And when I sat down, I remember the whole plane got filled up. It took like an hour for everyone to apparently get on the plane on time. And well, one thing led to another. I ended up hearing on the announcements, "All right, this is your captain speaking. Hi, I'm gonna be flying the plane today, and I hope you guys all have a safe flight to Toronto with me. And honestly, if it's your first time flying, don't be nervous. You're gonna have a good time." In a way, I felt like she was like actually talking to me over the announcements, and I felt special. But let's just say what ended up happening next, I definitely felt special, because I remember as we were like 20 minutes into our flight, we finally got fully into the air, and the plane was just soaring through the clouds. I didn't get a window seat, so I couldn't actually see that, but I remember as I was sitting on the aisle, out of nowhere, I ended up seeing the pilot actually come out of the cockpit and actually walk down the aisle, and she walked up to me, and she said to me, "Hey Bubba, do you want to see something cool?" Yeah, I would love to. "Here, unbuckle your seatbelt, follow me." I remember she ended up basically walking me over to the front of the plane, and I ended up actually getting to see the front of the plane. I saw all the controls and the steering wheel and basically everything there is to fly a plane. It was one of the most awesome experiences ever, but then things got even better, because I remember as she was sitting down flying the plane, the old guy ended up looking at me, and he was like, "How you liking the plane, son? Do you like flying in the air?" Yeah, I love flying, I guess. I don't really know. And that's when this girl ended up giggling, and then she said, "Okay, I'm gonna take him back to his seat. I'll see you in a bit, okay?" "Okay, just you kids be safe." I remember I stood up with her, and we ended up going to my seat, but right before we ended up going to my seat, she ended up grabbing me by my shoulder and said, "Oh, here, let me take you to the back of the plane." And that's when I ended up going to the back of the plane with her, where the flight attendants were, except for some reason, no flight attendants were actually there. They're all in the front of the plane, just on their phones and just doing their own thing, which is surprising because I don't even know how they have service, but I guess they were going off Wi-Fi that was on the plane already. And basically, I remember this pilot looks at me and says, "So, Bubba, I forgot to ask, do you have like a girlfriend?" No, I don't. It's just me." "Okay, well, have you ever seen a plane bathroom?" At that moment, me and her, we ended up going into the bathroom, and well, as she was showing me inside the bathroom, she ends up closing behind the door and locks it. And well, one thing led to another. Me and her got pretty close, and we ended up doing the devil's tango on the plane. I gotta say, it wasn't my first time doing the devil's tango, but it felt good to be part of the Mile High Club. And well, yeah, one thing led to another. Like 20 minutes went by. She ended up putting on her uniform and everything after me and her finished. And yeah, honestly, that was basically it. Me and her left the bathroom at the same time, and I went back to my seat, and she just basically winked at me and walked back to the front to the cockpit where she was supposed to be flying the plane. And I remember sitting there on my seat as we were finally landing into Toronto, thinking, honestly, I'm definitely living my life to the fullest. And that was basically it. If you guys would do the same thing I did, then follow more embarrassing stories just like this one. Peace out, guys. Hey, do you guys want to listen to these stories live? Like actually face to face? Well, I made a channel called Bubba Live where I basically do this, and no joke, it's kind of weird. But if you guys do want to see these stories live streamed, then make sure you guys subscribe to the channel Bubba Live, where basically I tell these stories literally live. Now, please enjoy the story. Okay, so I pulled a flight attendant, and the way this ended up happening was the coolest thing ever, and I want to tell it to you guys, but obviously before I do, make sure you guys do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It seriously means a lot when you guys do, and on top of that, make sure you guys join me live on Kick streaming, telling crazy stories just like this one. But other than that, let's get straight to this crazy story. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another crazy story. So this story takes place, actually funny enough, the year I graduated. I remember it was the year 2019, and I just graduated. I was 18 years old and soon to be 19, funny enough. And I remember since I was pretty young and I really did not know what to do after graduation, I thought it'd be a cool idea to take a trip to Vegas. But not just any normal trip. I wanted to go on a trip to Vegas like a king. So I remember I ended up basically getting all of my life savings, which was not the best idea, and basically got everything together and started booking flights flights to Vegas. Now, many of you guys are questioning, why would I want to go to Vegas out of all things? And the reason is because in the movies, as a Canadian, I see a lot that Vegas is the place of dreams, the place of, you know, where Elvis was playing, and basically all cool things happen in Vegas. And the best part is that I wouldn't have to say anything because what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So it's like a win-win scenario. So I remember I ended up telling my family that I was going to take a trip to Vegas, and they were okay with it. And I remember from there, I ended up actually booking my ticket online, and I ended up getting first class tickets. Now, first class is better than basic class tickets. You know what I mean? Like, there's food involved. It's really nice. There's even alcohol. Now, I wouldn't be able to drink it because obviously in Canada, drinking age is 19, and I was literally about to turn 19. But still, I just heard it was way more comfortable than normal class. So I ended up basically getting first class tickets, and I remember I decided that day I was gonna wear my nicest suit on the plane. My parents were wondering why I was wearing a suit, but to be honest, if I was gonna go first class, I want to make sure they know I am first class. I don't know. In a way, to be honest, I was watching a lot of Suits, and I kind of just fell in love with Suits at the time. So I decided to wear my suit. But going on from there, I remember as I got my suit and it was the day of my flight, I put on my suit and got it all niced up and dressed and ready. And as I was ready, I remember I ended up basically getting my luggage and ended up going to the plane. Now, this trip was only going to be for a weekend, but still, I wanted it to be the best weekend of my life. So I remember I ended up hopping on the plane, and as I hopped on the plane, out of nowhere, there was a lady that was kind of instructing, like telling people where to go, and I realized that she was a flight attendant. Now, this flight attendant, when I was walking onto the plane, she was staring at me and said, "Oh, welcome aboard." And I look at her and say, "Oh, thanks." And I ended up basically going in there. But then she looked behind me and saw that no one else was behind me. She was kind of questioning it and kind of curious. And then I remember as I was sitting down in my seat that I was assigned, she ended up walking up to me saying, excuse me? Yeah, what's going on? Is what I said. Where are your parents? My parents? Is what I said. She ended up looking very confused, and she's like, "Oh, my apologies. Are they still waiting to be on board?" No, it's just me on this flight. I don't have my parents with me, is what I said afterwards. And then she looked at me all questioning, and she's like, "Wait, so you booked first class by yourself?" "Yeah, I kind of did," is what I said. One thing I will say is that it's super weird how she asked where my parents were, but at the same time, I get it. At the time, I looked really, really young. So I remember I looked at her and said, "Oh, so I'm just planning this trip for myself. You know, decided to make it a work trip." "A work trip?" is what she said, all confused and really questioning who the hell I was and how was I able to afford first class and a nice Gucci suit. I don't know. She was really confused and trying to figure out what was going on, and I basically summed it down for her, and I made up kind of a lie saying, "Oh, I own a multi-billion-dollar company and just thought I should take a trip to Vegas for tax write-offs." I remember the flight attendant looked at me really in questioning and said, "Can I take a look at your ID?" Yeah, sure." I ended up showing her my ID, and when she read that I was 19 years old, she was super confused. She was like, "You own a company at 19 years old?" "Yeah," is what I said. She ended up basically saying, "Well, that's very good then." And then afterwards ended up walking away. Now, I didn't know if she actually fell for it or not, but later on, what I started to realize was that she was being really weird around me. For example, every time she would come with like the snacks that they usually give out, she would always kind of wink at me and flirt at me in a really weird way. I don't know why this flight attendant was so on my case. I don't know why she was so interested in me all of a sudden. Maybe she was a gold digger? I have no idea. But then I remember after 2 hours onto my flight, I remember food was getting handed out to people in first class. And me, I ended up getting the same flight attendant passing me the food that I, you know, basically ordered, which was a mac and cheese because I love macaroni and cheese. And she looked at me saying, "Would you like anything else?" No, I'm good, thanks." And I started eating it. But as I was eating it, I remember she ended up grabbing a napkin and she said, "Oh, you got some on your face." And she ended up cleaning my face for me. Now, I didn't know if that was all first class people get that kind of treatment, but there's no way, right? So I remember from there, I felt kind of awkward and said, "Thanks, I could just do that." And I ended up wiping my own face. But then what ended up happening next, well, I guess you could say I was going demon mode. Because I remember what ended up happening was after I finished my meal, I want to say like almost half an hour later, my stomach kind of started hurting. I don't know why or what was in the mac and cheese, but my stomach started kind of burgling, and it got to the point where I really had to go to the bathroom. So I basically ended up kind of getting up and rushing towards the back of the plane to go to the bathroom. But as I was heading there, I remember the flight attendant ended up seeing me, and she, I think, purposely bumped into me saying, "Oh, where are you going?" "I'm going to the bathroom," is what I said, kind of constipated. And I ended up running there and basically letting it all go in the bathroom. But as I was in the bathroom, I ended up just sitting on the toilet seat a bit longer. I think most people do this. They just sit in the toilet seat just because they can. Kind of that reassurance of, hey, you know, let it all go. But as I was sitting there, I remember I ended up going on my phone real quick, check the time, and then out of nowhere, once again, the door knocked. Now, I thought it was someone trying to use the bathroom, so I said, occupied, like, you know, a nice gentleman would. But then afterwards, the flight attendant just ended up walking in. I remember I was kind of panicked going, wait, what are you doing here? And she looked at me saying, oh, I was just like thinking like, how are you doing? Do you need anything? Do I need anything? I'm in the bathroom, is what I said to her. Kind of just awkwarded out. But then she didn't really ask any more questions and kind of just ended up, you know, pushing me up against the wall and started kissing me. Now, at this point, I was super weirded out. I'm like, wait a second. Wait, what? This flight attendant likes me? And then, yeah, what can I say? We basically ended up doing the devil's tango because I basically said screw it and decided to go for it. Honestly, you only live once, and at that point, our plane was basically hovering over Vegas, so what can I say? What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But anyways, guys, that is basically it for today's story. Make sure you guys do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Anyways, like I always say, follow for more embarrassing but crazy stories. Peace out, guys. Okay, so this is a story I've been actually holding on to for a while because we all know that the bathroom stories are just doing fantastic on this channel. I don't know why. When it comes to the all-gender bathroom, the school bathroom, or even the Walmart bathroom, you guys go insane for it. And sorry if my voice sounds a little deeper than usual. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I am a little sick. I did receive COVID the last following week, so that's probably why the uploads haven't been that fantastic. But as usual, this is a brand new story just for you guys, and obviously it is a bathroom story. So let's get straight into this. Hopefully you guys enjoy this video, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Seriously, I think only like 79% of you guys aren't subscribed, which is kind of a big L. And you know, if you guys just press the subscribe button, it'll mean a lot. Now let's get straight into this outstanding but yet kind of crazy story. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another crazy story. So like I said, the bathroom stories, they're doing fantastic. Honestly, I might as well start a series on this at this point, but today is a brand new one, and I'm not gonna lie, we took things to the limits, and by limits I guess I should say height limits, because today was in a bathroom, but not no ordinary bathroom, an airplane bathroom. Now many of you guys are probably asking, how did you do this? That is not possible. How in the world did you do it on an airplane bathroom? And honestly, I'm here to tell you guys, it's actually not that complicated. So back when I was in high school, I remember I took a French course, or like, you know, basically a language speaking course, because it is a university requirement down here in Canada. I don't know about anywhere else, which is funny because I never actually went to university or college. Wow, you guys really changed my life on that one. But basically, I'm not gonna lie, there was no like good course other than French to take, because you know, that's the one French Canadians, or Canadians at least, learn throughout the years of like growing up. We would always have like some sort of French class. So I remember I took a French course, and I remember during this French course, we basically like learned like the basics of French, blah blah blah, bonjour, ça va bien, you know, all that basic French stuff. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not the best at French, but it is what it is. And I remember in my French class, there was this one chick who was actually like really good at French. Like, I'm not even joking, she was outstanding. She knew like every word. She knew all like the, you know, feminine and like masculine translations. Like, she was really good at French. Okay, like it was outstanding. And I remember, you know, I always wanted her to like help me out with French and stuff like that, and she would gladly help me out with doing a bunch of different things, and you know, basically help me do my homework, or in circumstances I watch her as she does my homework, because she was pretty attractive. And I remember one time, as we were all doing homework in like our groups and stuff like that, our teacher walked in and said that we were doing a trip to France. Now this was obviously a surprise for us, because you know, whoa, a school's funding a big trip, but at the same time we did have to pay like a pretty big payment of that. But you know, that's not the point. The payment wasn't the issue. The issue was that, I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't really have any friends in that class. I didn't have any friends in that, well, let's just say classroom, other than the hot chick that helped me do my homework. So I remember what I decided to do was like basically like, you know, talk to her through Snapchat, and basically like, you know, kind of talked her up, because I didn't really want to be alone on this trip. And also, isn't like France or Paris like, you know, like the city of love or whatever? I'm not sure, whatever. I tried to connect that in some way, but you know, I guess not. Anyways, I remember as like, you know, I started packing my bags and stuff, because my parents let me go on the trip. I was like kind of like planning on like, you know, how romantic it would be if me and her, you know, I don't know, did some cool stuff together, like a date somewhat. I don't know. I was kind of like a helpless romantic at that moment, and anything worked in my book. I don't know how to tell you guys. So I remember I was talking to her up the whole night before our flight, and you know, I was just, you know, talking to her, being nice to her, you know, making it seem like we were a thing. And I guess in her mindset we were also, which was like a big W. And I remember as like, you know, we were getting ready for the flights and stuff, and you know, I got to the bus stop, or the school that was gonna take the bus to the airport. She was like kind of like always always like near me and stuff, to the point where like it seemed like to the class like we were gonna be a thing. So like everyone like, you know, screw off, which was really good in my opinion, which was really like beneficial. I wasn't alone. Yay, that's the first. So once we got on the bus, I remember she like kept like sitting beside me and like kind of like getting close to me, to the point where we actually started making out on the bus. And I'm not gonna lie, you know, when you're sitting at the back of the bus, you already know your boy's gonna be getting some. No, I'm kidding. That's not really the quick case here, but I mean, we didn't get some until later, but that's not the point. Basically, me and her were just making out on the back of the bus, doing our own thing, you know, just everyone's just doing their, you know, savas and practicing their intros for when they get to France, when me in reality I was just practicing my French kissing, I would guess. That's a good one. I'm okay. But yeah, basically, I remember when we got to the airport, me and her were like planning on sitting together and stuff like that. So we did. We sat beside each other and we got on the plane. And once we got on the flight, things got a little iffy. Now, I remember she kept like coming near me and stuff, and the plane was so boring. And I remember we tried watching a movie together, but the movie was like a romantic movie she wanted to watch. And let's just say, like, after a while, I'm not gonna lie, I guess she was just really in the mood. Like, I don't know how to tell if a chick's like horny per se, but you know, you can kind of just tell. Like, I don't think you have to feel them up just to understand that, at least not in my book. I don't know, I guess I've gotten too well known to this, which is kind of funny. But yeah, basically she was like coming near me and stuff, and it got to the point where I was like, screw it, like, let's do it. Like what's the worst that can happen? But obviously I wasn't gonna do it on the airport seats. In my mind, I was thinking about doing it there, but then she turns her head over to me and she was like, do you want to go to the bathroom maybe? And when she said that, I was like, not a bad idea. I don't know what it was. When she mentioned the bathroom, I guess, you know, my eyes opened up with like a big idea, like popped on my head and saying like, you know, yeah, we could do in the airport bathroom. So obviously we did, but we didn't know how we were gonna get each other both back there. So I remember my plan was very, very different than hers. At least her idea was just to go back there and say, screw it, like, who's gonna have what's the worst that can happen? But my idea was a bit more well engineered. What I would do is that I would go to the back where like the teachers were sitting and ask them about some like Frenchery stuff. And as I'm asking, distracting the, you know, teachers, I guess I should say, she would pretend to like talk to like the flight attending or the person that brings the cool food and stuff. And as we're both like distracted talking to people, instead of heading back to our seats, we just head straight to the back to the bathroom. But obviously it wasn't going to be that easy. We also had to make sure that, like, you know, there was no one in the actual bathroom and there was no lineup. So we had to wait for a perfect time. So I remember me and her were just sitting there waiting for the bathroom to be cleared. And by the time the bathroom was cleared, let's just say everyone was already sleeping. Like, I'm not even joking. Surprisingly, every single student was passed out on their airport seat. It was like the perfect moment. So I remember, you know, she like stood up and grabbed my hand. She's like, I'm not waiting anymore. And she took us back there and she literally took me to the bathroom. When I got to the bathroom with her, I'm not gonna lie, this bathroom was so tiny. Like, this thing was small. Like, there was no way anyone could do anything in here. But honestly, you know, when you gotta do it, you just do it. So I remember, you know, she started pushing me up against the wall, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, we ended up doing the Devil's Tango. Wow, that sounded really better with my COVID voice. That sounds sick. But anyways, yeah, so, you know, we did the Devil's Tango. And it went on for, I want to say, like 20 minutes. We tried to make it quick as possible, okay? And I remember, you know, as that was going on, I remember she, like, made a noise. And I guess someone decided to knock on the door and say, hello? Anyone in there? At that moment, I was like freaking out, and so was she, because she's like, what do we do without getting caught? So I remember I turned on the sink acting like I was washing my hands, and basically I was saying, oh yeah, just give me a minute here. So obviously now, like, the person that was knocking on the door knows someone was in there. And basically I remember what I had to do was make him like distracted in some sort of way. So I remember yelling through the door, oh, like, I'm actually bleeding, can you go get like my teacher? And obviously he was like, oh yeah, like, I'll help out, like, let me go get him. So he went back there and he went to go get my teacher. And basically I told her, like, right at that moment, like, you got to get the heck out of here. So I remember I literally grabbed her and I pushed her out of there. She literally went out and she like went back to her seat and stuff. And then the teacher asked, like, oh, like, is, you know, Bubba back there? And she said, yeah, Bubba's back there, he's just, you know, bleeding, I think. And at this moment, I didn't know what I was gonna do, because I was just in the bathroom with the water on, just washing my hands, praying that I would like bleed out of nowhere. And let's just say, obviously I can't make myself bleed. I mean, I could, but that's no, I can't. Self-harm's not a good thing for me. No, thank you, especially in these circumstances. So I remember I'm not even joking, this was the funniest part. I think he came to the bathroom, he's like, oh, just open the door, like, I'll help you out, like, I'm here to help. He comes comes into the bathroom. He sees me with just my hands soaking wet. And I'm like, oh, like I washed it off and I think I'm gonna be okay. And then like, you know, I basically pretended that it was like cleaned off. And then the airport attendant came there as well. And she handed me a band-aid and I just put it on the most like random spot on my hand. And we went and sat down. Once we went and sat down, basically like she sat down beside me. She gave me a high five, or like, actually it was a fist bump. You know, we're gonna say it was a high five. And yeah, that's basically it. And long story short, I ended up doing it in the airport bathroom, or airplane bathroom. It wasn't really at the airport, it was at the airplane. So yeah, you know, I never realized I would take things to great limits or great height limits, but this was successful. And other than that, thank you guys so much for listening. Make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in another story. Peace.